Hi there, it's Terry Bell here from EU Property Solutions. I've just given you a quick introduction to the webinar today. What we're doing here is we're taking the liberty of using a recording that we did with our barrister. Initially the webinar, which covers all property and legal issues in Cyprus with our Cypriot Barrister, was to be a mix of me giving you a bit of a commentary with a short interview with our barrister. The interview in the end, I think it lasts for about 40 minutes, and we thought it's so powerful that we'd use it as the format for the webinar. Pay particular attention, if you would, when George goes into some depth on the issue with the title deeds that we can't get in Cyprus, and actually refers to the immense number that's still outstanding. So it's a challenge that we all face in Cyprus there. So excuse the sort of slight change in format, but I think there's a lot of value here, and I think it also gives a little bit of insight at how we work as an organisation, as ourselves at EU Property Solutions, essentially dealing with looking after whatever we have in the UK, endeavouring and always succeeding with George's help in keeping cases in Cyprus and achieving settlements and solutions there. So I think you'll get the dynamic. We work very well together. We deal with some pretty big cases. There's one at the moment we're dealing where a client is being chased for over €300,000. We're going to get a great settlement on that one. There was another one we referred to in the interview there, and it was towards €1 million, and we settled on around 250. So that was a big, heavy case. Doesn't matter what size the case is; it's how it's dealt with by the professionals. So we're going to run this, and then I'm going to jump back on at the end and just give a little bit of a closing commentary on it from there. So enjoy myself, Terry Bell, and dear barrister in Limassol, which is George. Thanks for your time.
And I'm joined by my good friend, can I call you my friend, and a brilliant barrister who's based in Limassol, Larnaca, and who also is qualified, if I'm right, George, to act in the UK if needed.
I am, yes, and I'm a qualified barrister called to the bar in 2000 at the Inner Temple.
And thanks for joining us. But what we're trying to do here again is we often talk about our great legal team. We have a very good legal team in Spain, which we've discussed previously, George, and also we've got your good self. And I always do refer to you as a terrier, in that you don't take no for an answer. You know the legal process inside out, and basically you're our client's friend. So, so there are four, I think, main things that sort of are weighing on people's minds if they still got a property in Cyprus, typically pre-2008, before the crash. The big one that keeps coming back every time is title deeds. As I understand it, the title deeds thing, which is one of the IMF bailout conditions of 2012, that the land registry sort of got their act together, but they never have. Can you give us a little bit of insight? I know you have a little bit of a personal insight as well with trying to sort some title deeds out yourself.
Mm-hmm.
What are the challenges there you're facing on the title deeds?
Sorry, the thing with title deeds is that it directly relates with the issue of registered properties and unregistered properties. Okay, now, we living in Cyprus, and Cyprus being a small island as it is, more than 90% of the properties in Cyprus are not registered. Okay, and this is exactly because we have if I may give you an example so you can understand how it works. We have the piece of land. The piece of land is registered on XYZ Developer Limited.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this XYZ Developer Limited decides to develop a project on that piece of land with, let's say, for the sake of our example, 20 units, either apartments or houses. So this is where the process begins, with the intention to build. So he applies to the bank, he gets his loan as a registered owner of the land. Then he applies to the planning permission authorities to obtain the planning permission. They take their time, or rather they really take their time. Then we go from the planning permission to the building permission. Why there are two stages, I haven't even been able to figure as to why we need to have the two stages. Then he proceeds with the construction of the project. And when he finishes the project, taking into account unforeseen situations or strikes or whatever, It takes 2-3 years to develop the project. When the project is developed, he has to go back to the planning permission authorities to call them on site to confirm that the development was constructed according to the building permission.
Mhm.
If something went wrong or something was constructed differently to the original plans, they will come in with questions and inquiries and clarification as to why this and why that.
Mhm.
So that takes another few months to put things right. And when the things are approved by the planning permission authorities, they go to the land registry with instructions to the land registry and tell them, okay, guys, we now have the project constructed in the manner as approved by the planning permission authorities. You may now proceed and cancel the title deed of the land and issue separate title deed for each property.
Mhm.
Basically, for each unit that was constructed. Now, coming to the legalities now. When the developer starts selling off plan, as we call them, the developer signs a contract with any potential buyer.
Mhm.
As soon as that contract is signed, then the buyer has the right to lodge the contract with the land registry, and they get the POE number. So basically, that's the registration number of the contract with the land registry. The land registry knows that I have the registered owner of the land, Mr. XYZ developer, who is the registered owner, and I have a legal owner called Mr. John Smith from the UK and his wife, who agreed to buy a unit on the complex, on the registered land, and they are my legal owners. So effectively, we have a registered owner who is the developer, and the legal owner who is the purchaser, who has lodged his contract with the land registry.
Mhm.
Okay, so there is an element of trust between the developer and the buyer, which lasts for a few years until the procedure which I've explained earlier has
Mhm.
taken place.
Okay.
In the meantime, and this is why we find the problems now, this was happening back in 2008 and 2012, the banks, although there were legal owners on the land, they still issued mortgages in favor of the buyer, mortgaging the land.
Mhm.
So the land was encumbered both with the contract of the legal owner as well as the mortgage of the bank.
Mhm.
Now, when we go to the land registry now, when the planning permission goes to the land registry and tells them, guys, okay, we have now finished the inspection of the construction, you can now proceed to issue separate title deeds.
Uh-huh.
The land registry will only issue each unit's title deed on the name of the registered owner.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And when the separate title deeds are issued on the name of the developer informs each legal owner to tell them, guys, I have your title deeds now ready. Come and collect them. Come to the land registry, pay your registration fees so that you can become the registered owners of your unit. At that point, the banks come in and say, guys, oh, hold on. I've got a mortgage on the land.
Uh-huh.
I'm not allowing you to register this property on Mr. John Smith because I have a mortgage.
Uh-huh.
And then we as lawyers, and if I may say lawyers that understand this procedure and know this procedure, we say, hold on, guys, what prevails what? If the contract prevails the mortgage, then we have no issue and it's a speedy procedure.
Yes.
If the mortgage prevails the contract, though, this is where you need someone to negotiate with the banks. And this
Yes.
is what we're doing for our clients now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's nearly back to front, isn't it?
It's back to front, yes.
Yeah,
Correct.
But because then you've got to rebuild, and then obviously the other challenges. If somebody came to us now and said, I need to sort my deeds out, what typically, obviously subject to all the process, what would be the quickest period at the moment you could get your deeds sorted?
Tell you that the first question is, has the separate title deed issued from the land registry?
Mm-hmm.
Going back to the procedure I've explained. If the answer is yes, then we need to establish, is the contract prevailing the mortgage or is the mortgage prevailing the contract? If the contract is prevailing the mortgage, then obviously it's a simple procedure, still with some hurdles. If the mortgage prevails the contract now, then this is where we need to kick in the negotiations with the bank. And our main argument with the bank, going to our next point, basically on your agenda, and thank you very much for the agenda, is what are we arguing with the bank? What are our strong points of argument with the bank? The strongest point is, now with Brexit, it's not easy for the banks to enforce any legal judgment in the UK.
Yes.
They need special permission to register any court order against anybody to be applied in the UK. I'm not saying that it is impossible. All I'm saying is that it will cost the bank a lot of money, time, and effort to chase someone. And don't forget, it's another thing that we put forward to the banks is that most of our clients, if we are to put them in age groups, most of them are above 65 to 70.
Absolutely.
So by the time the banks proceed with a court order in Cyprus, and don't forget litigation in Cyprus is very, very prolonged, it's very, very, very slow.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we tell the bank, okay, do you want to go to court? Go to court. We will object. We will defend our client, especially if it's a Swiss franc mortgage. There is a possibility that they may lose the case. The bank may lose them, their action be dismissed. And then we tell them how long it will take then. Let's say you have a court order in 6 years from now in Cyprus. You need another 6 years to register the same order in the UK, plus God knows how long to enforce that order in the UK. So these points, we take advantage of the system, of this, the fact that the system is slow,
Absolutely.
the fact with Brexit, and these are the arguments we put forward to the bank.
Sure.
And
On that, George, on that,
Yeah.
just as one point as well, because what I'm a big believer, and again, because I'm of a certain age, you've got to get on with things. The procrastination, leaving things forever, because, and again, you've got that, but, and we've had quite a few cases, and we've been involved in a couple of the joint ones where unfortunately somebody passes, and you bring that complication in. You have the situation, sometimes the developer comes out the woodwork and all this sort of stuff. But all of these things here, I mean, we're going to talk at the end in terms of, we're going to go a bit more detail, but these are just small points that make up a case in terms of what you're trying to do.
It's not just this point. The developer may be in liquidation. We have these examples. We have this example. Clients, like you said, may pass on. We had a couple of clients that really passed on, and the banks, what they did is we were offering them the property back in consideration of zero contribution because of the age of the client. I don't want to mention the name of the client, obviously, but we have the client here. Okay. The bank said no. So now they called me and said, oh, can we proceed with that? No, the client passed on. We need to have a probate in place. We need to have tax clearances and everything. So they're looking around now. So these arguments, basically, we put them to the bank, and the bank is now settling with us because we have personally, we as a team, we have a long-standing relationship with the bank, and they know how we work. They know. It's not a point of me negotiating with the banks now. So I call them and say, guys, I have this case, I have this client, you know my argument, no need to repeat them. So effectively, the process is speed up. Whereas at the beginning, we had around 6 months to 8 months until we had completion. Now we have 3 months.
Yes.
And the most wasted time, Terry, it's not because of us or the bank. It's because of the authorities to give clearances.
I understand. My big thing, and you defend it really well there, is to keep it in Cyprus. Whatever the dispute is, the problem, the issue, keep it in Cyprus because of particularly your ability, but us as a team, making sure we're safe in the UK. Because if you go back, generally people have made one mistake and bought the wrong property, the wrong mortgage, with the wrong mortgage, etc., and all the complications going. In the UK, in the main, people have, say they live in the M25 around London, their asset values have flourished. They're in good form. This is a mistake you made, but I always go on and you sort of mentioned the demographic. I always go on there. If you're going to do something about it, it's not going to get better. It's not going to get better. No, and it's taking that leap of faith, and that's why I wanted to talk to you and share this directly with people that are going to watch this, because it's very important that they get that side of things. Just one last thing on title deeds. So I was surprised that figure. I didn't know it was as high as 90% wouldn't be registered yet.
It's a fact. I mean, obviously, don't quote me on the 90%. If it's not
No,
that,
but it's huge.
It's a huge amount. Yes,
Yeah.
it's a huge amount. Coupled also with the fact that we have the trap buyers procedure.
Yes.
Okay, we had that procedure, and it was up and running smoothly, so people could proceed with obtaining their title deeds, although the mortgage was prevailing the contract. There was this called the trap buyers procedure. Now, what happened is that one of the banks, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was Alpha Bank, they went to the High Court and they challenged this procedure, basically saying that it was unconstitutional to have this law. So basically, since my mortgage is prevailing the contract, why are you giving me the authority under the umbrella of the trap buyer to have their own title deeds? So they challenged this constitution, the constitutionality of this procedure, and they won. So all pending applications regarding trap buyers now are pending or are halted since June 2024. And now there is new bills going through the government and the parliament, and they're trying to not amend the law, because the law, since it's once unconstitutional, always unconstitutional. They are trying now to issue a new law to find ways to remedy this situation and find solutions for all those trap buyers. Still, though, there is no law in force. So the only procedure someone can follow now is by using us or using someone out there who understands this procedure. They need to employ someone who understands, because there is many points in the procedure and the law behind all this. So you need to engage someone who understands the procedure.
Yes, and very often when we start off with that initial inquiry, whatever it may be, it's how it unfolds from there. It's not usually that one point they raise. If it's I've missed 2 payments and I'm worried, that could go right the way through to be anything within reason. I keep going back to the demographic, but we're in that place, and I keep going on about the proactivity. But so many things can go, so many sort of small parts can make up the whole case.
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, each case is calculated and is discussed on its own merits. But generally speaking, the arguments we put forward to the bank are valid ones, and the bank knows that we don't bluff.
Absolutely, and valid and incredibly commercial. That's the strength we have between us, is the commerciality. We have an idea what the bank really think they want. They want all their money, they say, but when they know their position, when it's pointed out every facet of it, and all the different features that can go wrong, then we can build in that level of commerciality. I'm just going to change the subject slightly. So you briefly touched on Swiss franc mortgages. We find a lot of people, obviously they were wronged. By modern standards, they would have been missold, but they still anchor on that anger. Yeah, I get that to a degree, but thinking that their anger and their desire to overturn the Swiss franc mortgage debacle, if you like, has seen a number of class actions. Are you still seeing? Are they still in existence? Are people still trying to?
No. In Cyprus, we don't have class actions. It's not accepted by our legal system. No class actions, because we believe on the uniqueness of the facts of each case. So legal actions are not something it is approved in Cyprus. But touching on the Swiss francs point, I will recall one of our cases which we tried, and it's not GDPR here. I mean, the court cases, the court order is there. If you remember Mr. Old, okay, the bank came to him requesting 1.2, including costs, the exchange rate between Forex and between Swiss francs and the euro, court proceedings and all that. The bank was after him for 1.2 million Swiss francs. We said to the bank, no, I'm sorry, we cannot agree to anything even close to that. So we engaged professional auditors, they're forensic auditors basically. We engaged them, if you remember, in that action.
Yes.
They came back to us and said, guys, considering the exchange rate and the charges and whatever, the bank shouldn't be demanding more than 300,000 euros, 3,000 Swiss francs, sorry. We presented that to the bank. The bank said, no, we want 1.2 million. We said, guys, thank you, see you in court if that's the case. They issued proceedings against Mr. Oath. They did service the proceedings to the UK. Brexit is not a problem. Just to service proceedings, you can still service anywhere
Yes.
in the world. Okay. So they serviced the proceedings. We went to court. We tried the case, and the court order is there. The judge gave them only 220,000 Swiss francs.
Mhm.
So eventually, not only they came and started negotiating with us on the court order amount, but Mr. Old saved one of his property as well in Cyprus.
Mhm.
So, and the bank were very, I can use the word, disgusted by this development.
Uh-huh.
Because it's one thing expecting 1.2 or demanding 1.2, and it's another thing given 220,000. The case is there.
Uh-huh.
So
In full litigation, George, I remember that guy came very, very late in the day. I think you had to drop everything, and I think you had to go off to Paphos for the really, like, literally over the weekend or so. So good, in terms of where the bank are.
He didn't even testify in court because we
Yeah.
only relied on the expert's opinion.
Yes, but I'm saying in terms of where the banks thing, were they taking him right down the path in terms of the litigation? And
Yeah.
if you hadn't intervened and gone straight, I think it was Paphos Court you in. It was something like we spoke to him on a Thursday. You were in Paphos Court on the Monday.
It was very short notice. Yes,
Absolutely.
Very short notice. But all I'm saying is that the Swiss francs, the actual balance of the mortgage,
Uh-huh.
in any case, not just in Mr. Old's case, in any case, it's not what the bank is demanding. Because the judges see that the Swiss francs and the relationship between the two currencies was not in favor of the buyer, but it wasn't his decision to buy the loan in mortgage in Swiss francs. So the judges are in favor of settling those cases. And I mean, for my sake, as a lawyer, it makes my life easier if it's a Swiss mortgage rather than a euro account or the euro loan, because I know there is a lot of room to negotiate.
Yes. Yeah.
And if the bank threatens with court action, please be my guest. I'll see you in court.
Absolutely. Because we commissioned a small survey, and it suggests there are at least another 8,000 in default Swiss franc mortgages kicking around in Cyprus alone. We've dealt with cases in Poland and Hungary on the Swiss franc mortgage. It was almost like the plague across Europe in terms of buying stuff at the time. But it's good to hear that you've got that sort of insight. It's almost like Nelly bordering on a bit of a protocol developing there, but it still has to be done in a certain way. Going back to what you're saying when we're looking at the title deeds, the case has to, you're almost like building the case as it goes along, and that's the only way it can be done. Trying to deal with the banks direct, and I know you have family members in the bank, but the cheapest, that's hard work. I know you and Natalie, who works in our leads office, have immense amounts of frustration there, but you particularly, and Natalie, and hopefully us as a team, where we don't give up. We just keep plugging. Eventually,
we never give up. We always send the banks reminders. And the other thing with the banks in Cyprus is that they keep rotating staff. So whilst I'm talking to, let's say, one banker or a customer services assistant who will assist me on this exercise, or with whom I will speak for this exercise, the next time I send an email, I find out that he changed the position and he's not in that part now, and he's another department now. So that also causes delays.
Yeah,
absolutely. So any delays are not from us.
No.
Directly. No. I mean, we are always following up. We're always pushing and always trying to get an answer.
In the early days, what we did, I went into the who was it? What bank was it? I think it was Alpha Bank in Paphos, up in the top of the town. And I went in there, and it's quite surreal. So few people, but there was an office called Credit Committee, and it just had a plaque on it. And there were two guys sat in there. There's a lady sort of entertaining me, talking me through some stuff and that. I said, when's this going to go to the Credit Committee? And I had a thing that was going to be in Nicosia and a great big gathering of the bank. And she said, oh, that's about another 3 or 4 months. Well, the two guys sat in there. So the Swiss franc mortgage, and say obviously that was the awful thing. In that, obviously, you got the massive appreciation of the Swiss franc coupled with negative equity, and that's caused some huge number. And then the banks are very, and I starting to notice with some of these, we're going to come on to the vulture funds in a minute. They love the compounding of the interest, don't they?
Yeah, not only the interest, they don't only compound the interest, they compound charges as well. and they compound legal fees as well. So whatever the balance is,
Right.
yeah. I mean, they charge interest on costs, on fees, on account maintenance fees.
Yeah. Yeah.
So these are the things we put to the judge when we go to and say, you cannot ask for it. You cannot compound costs.
No.
So, and in all fairness, though, given the years of experience and relationship our team has with the banks, with all the
Yes.
banks, they know the way we negotiate. They know what the outcome we want is. So our life is easier. I mean, at the beginning, I used to go to the banks and sit in their offices and sit in their conference rooms and shout with them and argue with them and pinpoint points and whatever. Whereas now it's just I pick up the phone. I said, guys, I have Mr. Terry Bell here. He has a loan. This is what he wants to do. You know my arguments. I don't need to repeat. Yes, George. Okay, send us these documents from Mr. Bell, and off it goes to the deciding body. So we managed to speed up the process through our direct communication and experience, long-standing relationship with the bank.
Absolutely. And
so they are our friends now. The bank is our friend now, not our enemy.
Yes, absolutely. It's not a protocol as such, but there's you say with the relationship, and they know we're not trying to cuss here, but they know we don't take their BS. You know, there's some of the stuff they come back with because you've got them gripped there. So on the banks. I see, for instance, they're using quite a bit. They're using Baker Tilly quite a bit. Insolvency practitioners here in the UK. How are the banks performing? Do you think they've sold most of their loan books now, or there's still sales to come through?
I don't think they've sold to Baker Tilly. They just outsource the negotiating part.
Yes,
they are outsourcing that, and this is what they're doing.
Yeah. I mean, sorry, I doubled up the question.
I don't think they've sold the mortgages to the banks. Or to Baker Tilly or any Baker Tilly. They're just outsourcing the negotiation and the procedure, basically. Because don't forget, by the time we agree something with the bank, then a huge procedure needs to undergo. Basically, send documents to the UK, have them stamped, apostille, send them back, send them to the bank, send them to the tax office, to the land registry, and that's the most time wasted, especially when we have government departments kicking into the procedure.
Cool. I mixed the question up there slightly. I apologise for that. But I had the banks as a separate thing to Baker Tilly. Have the banks finished their loan sales, or there's still more to come? Do you know?
Sorry?
The loan sales. Do you think the banks still have more loan books they're going to sell to the vulture funds and the like?
I don't know, but according to the circulars that go around with the banks, most of them have turned positive now. So they have been classified as positives. So I don't think they will be selling anymore. I don't see any more sales coming up.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, that's their business. I don't know what. Yeah,
that's okay. And then on the vulture,
I mean, whoever we need to negotiate with, we're fine. I mean, if it's Baker Tilly or Alpha Bank or Skycap or whoever, we still put forward the same arguments.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask next, because we've experienced in Ireland here a lot of the loan sales way back in the day. And how are you finding the vulture funds? You're saying they're pretty civil, really, generally looking for a solution.
Yeah.
And again, it's a representation of the relationship with them that you developed, and say us slightly behind you on that.
All good.
What about the one thing we do find here, and in Spain, for instance, they're quite the vulture funds seem to be better as the cross-jurisdictional side of things. So if they're going to bring pressure to bear, we've got one there, for instance, in Holland, came through today, and they can nearly. You were saying about them keeping the case in Cyprus. Okay, are you finding the vulture funds can go around the process a bit where they have more cross-jurisdictional skills?
So I mean, like we said earlier, it's better if the action remains in Cyprus.
Yes.
Rather than having to cross borders and negotiate parts, even for the banks. So our ultimate aim from the beginning is to make sure the matter remains in Cyprus.
Yeah, absolutely, always. And because that was the thing I was going to say. If you had a message, so we both get frustrated because you get somebody come through and we give them the best advice, but they decide not to proceed. In that's not about us, that's about them. Our job is always to service our clients and secure the best position for them.
I've experienced it before that, and I know where it's coming from. They have lost trust.
Yes, absolutely.
people has lost trust, both in the banking system of Cyprus. Don't forget that most of these loans are 2008, 2009. Don't forget in 2013 there was the bank crisis in Cyprus. There was a crash of the banks.
Yes.
So people have lost the trust in the banks. People have lost the trust of the Cypriot people. I'm sorry to say that, but when you have a developer whose only aim was to make money, not considering his commitments towards the buyers, and they
Yes.
left them exposed, some of the properties have not even been developed.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's one thing. They have lost trust in lawyers. I'm a lawyer myself, and again, I'm sorry to say, but some lawyers, instead of working for the best of their clients, they used to work in connection with the developer.
Yes.
Okay, it's that they have lost, and when you lose trust, it's difficult to put things right again.
Yes. No, absolutely. That's something we labour on this. Or if you go onto our website, we've got quite a few testimonials from actual clients, and you couldn't make them up. And they're because we don't try and Photoshop anything. It's these people, real people, made a mistake, bought the wrong property with the wrong mortgage, possibly in the wrong country in this instance, and you just go, yeah, but you've just got to get on with it. The key is it's because you can sit there and pontificate, and we have a couple of frustrations there. And the other thing, go back to the legals, not necessarily legal, the quality of some of the legal works that we see in Cyprus, without sort of being rude to your countrymen. There are some boys out there that they're just trying to take the €2,000. A number of instances we're seeing, we paid him €2,000, we've heard nothing.
I accept that. I accept that, but at the same time, it happens everywhere.
Oh yeah, I mean, no, that's what I'm saying. It's not a slight.
The point is, if you lose trust,
yes,
it's difficult to regain the trust.
Absolutely. But again,
on
that,
this is very unfortunate, and no matter how genuine we are, and we are genuine, and we always deliver. Remember the case we had last week? No need to mention the name. We took money from a client to proceed on his behalf. Then we realized that we couldn't do anything for this client because the bank had already proceeded with actions and court orders have been issued against the client, and this was not even briefed to us prior to taking this money from the client, and we returned the money.
Absolutely.
I mean, that goes to our credibility. That goes to show that we're only here to work and get paid only when we deliver.
Absolutely. But on that, we're here to serve. We would not take a case on that we didn't think we would win. 100% success in everything we do in Cyprus and in Spain. There's no point in us first off hoodwinking a client. That's completely wrong. We would never do that. Plus, we just wouldn't take it on. It's just not right for anybody. It's not fair on the client.
We turn clients down.
Absolutely.
I mean, they send us their stuff. At no cost, we evaluate the situation, and we go back with a brief opinion. Guys, yes, we can take it on. Guys, we cannot take it on. But when we take it on, we only take it if we can deliver.
I think the other one is because we've got such a on some of the stuff that we do here at Bell and Company here in Belfast, right? A lot of the work is very commercial. We owe you this. We work on a basis, I call it OGG, right? What do you owe? What do you got? What can you give? In Cyprus and in Spain, the mortgage law is very intricate, and the complications, and where back in the day, back in 2008, when everybody, was in the trough, as we say, it takes a lot of time to unravel. A lot of people don't get that. And sometimes when we're not the cheapest, I don't think we're the most expensive, we're not the cheapest, but a lot of people go for that value lawyer who says, I'll do it for 2,000. You go, that ain't going to happen. that might be to pull you into the web. And on the trust thing, that's brutal then, trying to deal with that.
Yeah, and another thing, if something is too cheap, then it's don't touch it.
Absolutely.
And I dare to say that yes, we have 100% success rate in all the cases we've taken on, but this is something we need to see in more depth. We're very, 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 very cheap.
Yeah, absolutely. We're talking about that later. We're talking about that later, Mr. Coomer.
What others are? Yes, we have volume. Even the bank come back to me and say, George, the biggest volume is from you.
Yeah, absolutely.
They know we have the biggest volume, but still, we're very cheap.
And we work on that retainer to a point, and then the success fee. But the retainer typically is about, what would that be? About 20% of the overall fee. So there's no great commitment early on.
Not even that. It's not even that.
So it's so that's something there. So of course, I'm going to draw to a close, right? If you would just give us in terms of because there's always that fear, especially for UK residents, okay, when there's the threat or people are involved in litigation in Cyprus. Are these cases, do you think, becoming more regular? Are there more of them, or is it fairly consistent?
I can't answer that question with 100% heavy on it, because don't forget, like we discussed earlier, banks have sold their loans.
Yes.
To these private companies. They're not even listed on the stock exchange.
Not regulated.
They're not even regulated. So they are limited companies.
Mm-hmm.
They want their money. They want their profit. So
Yeah.
how can they gain their profit unless they instigate proceedings?
Mm-hmm.
So the answer to your question comes from the facts themselves. Yes, more actions will start coming in now.
Mm-hmm.
With more threats, whatever. If anybody gets a court order, if anybody gets a court action, is summoned to court basically.
Mm-hmm.
It needs to engage someone who understands the procedures, who understands the system, who understands the legalities, who understands the loopholes of this procedure, who can take advantage of this and negotiate the best for this person. But yes, there will be a huge number of cases coming now. And I know another insight here, that most of these private companies have engaged in-house lawyers exactly for this purpose.
Right. Really gearing up.
They are going ahead with it. So it's best to do it now. It's best to negotiate your loan now before you receive a court case.
Yeah. No. Again, it's the same message. Sounds like I'm a broken record, but it's that ability to attack the problem rather than it hit you. And you were given instances there, and a lot of people completely ignore it. It's crazy. I don't know how they can live like that.
So you can't ignore it. I mean, the only way you can get away from it is if you die. I'm sorry to say, but that's the only way to get away from it.
Absolutely.
And some of the clients have signed their children as guarantors.
Mm-hmm.
I had cases of the like that. Someone bought a property in Cyprus. His finances were not sufficient, so he wanted guarantors. And his children signed as guarantors with the intention to pass this property on to his children at some point.
Yeah.
Then he fell out on the mortgage repayment, and now the children are also guarantors to the loan. So not only he destroyed financially his own finances, he destroyed the finances of his children as well. Absolutely.
Just it wasn't on. I know we've got a brief agenda we're doing here, but in terms of if somebody does pass away, what obviously you've got UK probate. Is there Cypriot probate required as well?
It's not a probate as such. It's an extension to the UK property. If there is a probate, if there is a probate in the UK, or the other way around, if there is a probate in Cyprus, you have to cross litigation both applications. And if, for example, we have the UK one, you bring the probate of the UK to Cyprus and you reseal it in Cyprus.
Right.
And then the beneficiaries or the UK executor appoints an executor in Cyprus. But then the question is, why extend the probate in Cyprus when there is no property in the positive side to treat and there is only a loan?
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is, I need to be aware, is that if you don't declare the property in Cyprus on the will in the UK, no matter whether there is a loan or not, because like we said, if you have a contract, you're still a legal owner. So you do have an asset in Cyprus. I had cases where people did not declare the contract on the probate in the UK, and the tax and the inland revenue got involved. And they got done for not disclosing information to the tax in the UK. So going back to your question, there's no way you can get away with it.
No, and that falls on the executor, doesn't it? That comes back if you're trying to ignore the property. That comes back on the executor because they're the ones running the estate.
And it's a criminal offence. If you don't disclose property, whether in
Mhm.
Cyprus or anywhere else in the world, that's a criminal
Yeah.
offense because you signed a
Absolutely.
declaration saying that I've disclosed everything and I've shared all the information I had to share with you.
And it has to be
So
said. I mean, it's a bit of a miserable subject to talk about, obviously, but you have to, in terms again back to the demographic, you've got to face up to the practicalities of life and death, unfortunately. And it's and given the time it takes. The reason I brought it up, in Spain, they have to do a separate probate. You have to do a Spanish probate, and that had to, and then they just love a bit of administration in Spain.
you have to extend the UK probate.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well,
Well, that's that. I enjoyed that. Thank you. I haven't spoken to you for a while. It's good to see you in good
Yeah.
form, and your family are well. And we're going to see you soon. So thanks for that. Hopefully, people are starting to get how we work. That we're pretty close. We're very close and work together. Like now for about 8 years. So and long may that continue, given what's going on out there. But thank you for your time, my friend.
no problem. I mean, it's always pleasure discussing and working with you, and it's always we're at the stage now that we've passed the original problems and we're now into the more detail of stuff now.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And this is what makes us unique because we look into every detail.
I think you'll agree that was pretty good. Some characters, George, and hopefully you can see the fire in his belly to make sure we achieve the clients. 3 points I would like to add, if I may, just before we let you go here. One is, again, as I said in the preamble there, hopefully you get the dynamic that we have and how we work, and obviously our clients' interests are foremost in everything we do. We have to serve you. George loves a euro, and he referred there to costs. Now, we are cheap relatively for what we achieve and create for our clients and the solutions we perform. Some people don't think we are, and very often they will run off to solicitors in Cyprus. During the interval, George was a bit wary of obviously trashing his Cypriot legal friends. I won't be. There are an immense number of cowboys in Cyprus. Quite a few clients then go for the cheaper option, but it's an open-ended bill, if you like, and cases don't get solved. So we're not afraid to say our job is to get people out of where they are as quickly as we can and in the most cost-efficient way. And our fees are fixed on a percentage basis of what we can save. I've definitely agreed, so everybody knows where they are. If you go with a solicitor on an open-ended basis with a very low entry level, the costs, we've seen horror stories in terms of what costs and how they accumulate. One other thing we've got there as well that George offered was, if you have any specific questions you want to ask, contact us. There'll be some contact details at the end of this. Ping that across and we'll definitely come back to you before or very early next week, because George is in court this week. So that's there. And if there's anything else you want to discuss, I say the contact details are there. And as ever, I go on and on about it. If you've got a problem, attack it, be proactive. Let's get you a solution. Hopefully you enjoyed that dialogue. Two strange accents, an Englishman in Belfast and a very Greek Cypriot barrister. Thanks, but goodbye.